what we expect if we play in that sector. I'll give you a typical example. The banks. Services are exported in 4 modes. Mode 1 is cross-border. Mode 2, consumption abroad. Mode 3, commercial present. Mode 4, temporary movement by natural person. And one individual can export in all the 4 modes. The banks are already exporting services. I don't know whether they are aware of that. Providus Bank, you know you are exporting services. Good. You have, when you are in your office, I have to send a back office operation to your branch outside the country. Cross-border. Nobody went there. You troubleshooted everything, and that is done, and everything is normalized. Payment is made. That's cross-border. You can do by email. You can do by fax if they're still doing fax. You can do by WhatsApp, whatever thing you want to do. Then commercial presence, you can say, okay, we've grown, so we can now have a presence in Cotonou, or in Canada, or America. You now open. No, sorry, that's the third one. The second one is you have foreigners coming to Nigeria, bank with you. They might be putting in Naira. It's not about the currency of that country or whatever currency, it's about the nationality. So they have consumed your service in country. That's mode 2, consumption abroad. You have telecom, Glo, for instance, having this in Ghana, and people are subscribing to that. So you have also exported. Then the third mode is the commercial presence, which you say, okay, let me go to Cotonou and open a branch to fit commercial presence. Then the other one is the mode 4, is the temporary movement by natural person, where you can just walk up and say, okay, let me go and provide a training program for a staff in Cotonou. Or it will take you maybe a maximum of 90 days, you return. That's temporary movement. And whichever way, and I'm sure everyone in one way or the other, the lawyers export services. Most of them don't even know. The logistics people export services. Hair salon, hairdressers, they export services. When a foreigner comes in and cuts, maybe you want to shave and walk into your place, you might be, oh, I'm a local barber. But that's a foreigner. He's not going to pay you in dollar or pounds or whatever. He pays you in Naira, irrespective of that currency. So, that person has consumed your service, and you don't even know. Same with mama put. If you like to eat mama put like me sometimes, you walk into a place, oh, okay, mama put, give me this. And at the end of the day, I pay that person maybe in whatever currency. That person is exported. That's as little as, that's what general agreement on trade in service is all about. And the export of one product, you can have up to 70% of the services explored. And of course, also, there's what we call servitization and servitization. Most companies are now, who are product manufacturers, are now doing services, additional services. For instance, Ayemibo is a big man. He has, in those days, he used to have, BM, those days, when it was very rare, those first grade ones, you imported it from Germany or wherever, and after a while, that BM had an issue. And he looked around, there's no mechanic that can fix that thing without a problem. So he said, the highest I can do, I have the money. Let me just ship it back for them to fix that thing for me. He now shifts the machine, back to Germany, and they fix it. Maybe it was something very little, and he brings it back. Capital flight. But what the manufacturers now do is, okay, you know what, don't bring it in. Plug your this in a scanner. I send you a code that will diagnose what that problem is. It might be okay that a knot is losing somewhere, you tie a knot in it. Or it could be, oh, there's this part that has a problem. Please, remove this part, we will ship it to you. Instead of sending the whole car, we just send that part. That company, that BM company, has also exported services, servicization. You're now saying you pay for that this thing. It will improve the value and also generate revenue from the company because you are paying, but you don't need to. You add value to you, the customer. So this is what service is all about. Then another one could be, okay, maybe GIG, for instance, now decide to have a car manufacturing company. And now decide, okay, I am going into logistics on my own. That's servitization. Apart from this, you now establish another line which is in line with what he is doing. So these are what services are, and this is where the entire world is looking at. This is what generates revenue. We have creative sector. We are more in that. We have financial services sector. We have like 5 priority sectors which Nigerian has comparative advantage, which is the ICT. We talk about outsourcing and the rest of those things. We talk about the financial services. We talk about the creative sector. We also talk about educational, and of course, tourism. Then logistics is more or less what we call the emerging sector. Tourism is very good, but it's just not well developed the way it ought to be. But we have a lot of potentials in that sector. So where would you rather be? Huh? This is the new trend. These are the emerging sector. These are the new trend in international trade. This is where people say work smart, don't work hard. With technology, you can work smart. With technology, you don't need to carry bricks and mortar. With services, that's where the world is going. But then again, we can't also neglect our core area where we have, that's this thing. Services is even more resilient than other things. Government support is what we need. Because once we get the support of the government, it becomes a lot easier for us. Policies that drive services sector. Policies like the data security and all that, I think that's where NITDA comes in. They are the custodian of that. But then again, we must, of a necessity, be able to look at where we have advantage, where we can re-innovate. If you don't innovate, be ready to renovate, because people with innovation will pass you. Then you now look back and say, okay, I need to go and renovate to meet their distance. So it's important, innovation in whatever thing, but both in services sector or in product sector. I think I need to leave this. In closing, let me just say this. There's something that we need to do. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement provides a humongous opportunities for us to trade among ourselves. We've not done so much in that aspect. Africans don't like to have a handshake with other Africans. We rather would struggle to meet European standard, to meet American standard. But this Cotonou standard, we've not been able to meet. How do we do? Report at one point shows that about 15% of Africa, the trade among Africans is just about 15%. And it shouldn't be so. So we need to develop that mindset. We have a lot in common amongst us. Let's start with ourselves. Let's improve. Sustainability talks about improvement of, trade relations with amongst ourselves. Other people will come and lie to us and say, oh, we are EU. They come up with issues, EUR, whatever they just came up with now, or sustainability, fresh, you have to, these are stories. They are just trying to, milk us the more. So let's turn to our brothers and our sisters' country. Let's trade with them. We can do more. The dollar in Cotonou is the same dollar in America, the value. Thank God the payment system, the PAPS, is also coming in to bridge that aspect. This is where we need to tell ourselves the truth. If we must sustain export, if we must sustain this thing, let's leave the past. Let's focus on what is ahead of us. There's a lot of opportunities that we must leverage. Don't allow people to tell you that you decide on what to do, how to do it, to their own advantage. Let's start. African Continental Free Trade Agreement. It is a part of our being, and the government has signed on to it. We must take that advantage. In closing, Nigerian Export Promotion Council is open to everyone. Everyone. We have a regional office that takes care of the southwest. Here, all the southwestern states in Lagos. We have other, in all the 36 states of the country, we have one office or the other. Please take advantage. Our services are free for now. I don't know about tomorrow, but for now, our registration is still one of the cheapest, and the procedure to register is also the easiest. You can sit on this table right now and register your export license or export certificate. Under 24 hours, you get your certificate. Once you do, you have the requisite document. Let's take advantage of this. We have our regional office. I came with our regional officer here, so you can meet with him for those in Lagos at any point in time. Take advantage. If you give me opportunity, I take advantage of. So please take advantage of what services the council is offering today. It's better to ask any question you want, please. Thank you.
A round of applause for Mr. Arnold. I know we can't have it in entirety if we have to go the whole stretch. NEPC is the powerhouse in biology. You call it mitochondria when it comes to the non-oil export in Nigeria. You can do better. Please, a round of applause for him, please. One of the core things that I had is the fact that there are opportunities between one end to the other end. And again, he spoke explicitly on how chocolate or cocoa turns to chocolate bar. So in trade finance, we use an appellation for it, which is from bean to bar. Essentially, between this space, there are opportunities that are available. And again, he mentioned the possibilities around the invisible exports, which again has to do with services. So there is a lot of opportunities for us in this market because of the endowment that we have as a country. Now we'll take the next speaker, and again, it's quite promising. But before then, I'd like to recognize the presence of the National President of the Gemstone Miner and Marketers Association of Nigeria, Dr. Neron Ajibade. A round of applause for him, please. He's here seated. Also, the representative of Neroli, Mr. Kunle Ajayi, is also seated. A round of applause for him. Then I also have the CEO of Midsun Group, Mr. Ikena Ibukoli. A round of applause for him, please. Then we have representative of the Nigerian Trade and Investment, Alhaji Abdullahi. A round of applause for him. Then 3T Impex as well, Mr. Ayemibo. A round of applause for him. Then NISAL is also well represented. I have Mr. Akinola Bayo, he's a friend of the house. A round of applause for him, please. Then we have one of the friends of the house. I call her the founder when it comes to export business. Her name is Michelle Okoyomo. A round of applause for her. They will actually be part of the panelist session. I also have Mr. Ogunlano Shegun, who runs the Jebu market. So we have a lot to hear today. A round of applause for him. But at this juncture, we will have to listen to the Nigerian Shippers Council. But before I call the representative to the podium, I would like to read a bit on her citation and who she is. She is actually a strong advocate of export and also on shipping related. Okay. All right, thank you. I'll readjust a little bit. I was thinking he was actually out. But again, let's take Nigerian Customs Services. They will actually speak to us on the trade facilitation, a focus on the advanced ruling system. But let me read a bit of his bio. Apologies, there's a bit of shift from what we mentioned earlier. But for the Nigerian custom, I'll read the citation of Mr. Ajibola, or Comptroller General Ajibola Odusonya. Let me just read a bit of citation of who he is. Comptroller of Custom, Ajibola Odusonya is a distinguished officer with an impressive track record in the Nigeria Customs Services. He holds a Bachelor of Law degree from Ogun State University, Algoiwe. His illustrious career began when he was appointed as a custom cadet, and through diligence and professionalism, he rose through the ranks to become a comptroller of custom. Over the years, Comptroller Odusonya has served in different states across the nation and held several key positions within the Nigerian Customs Services. Notably, he served as the Deputy Controller of Administration at the Apapa Area Command. He proceeded to the Customs Headquarters, where he served as the Acting Controller of Inspection and later as the Controller of Investigation. His leadership, integrity, and dedication to service have been exemplary in this note. He will speak to us today on the role of Nigerian Customs Services in trade facilitation. Please join me with a round of applause in welcoming him.
Correct that I'm Controller General. I'm a Controller Odusonya, the Area Controller of the Lily Pond Export Command, Ijora, Lagos. Yeah. The Managing Director, Providus Bank, and his representative here, the Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, or our representative, heads of other government agencies present here, our distinguished stakeholder, the exporters, members of the press, other distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I say good morning. It's still morning, technically. Yeah, I would say we at the Customs Service, we are delighted to be part of the effort of the Providus Bank in promoting export trade in Nigeria. I have a good message from the Controller General that we are always ready to partner with the Providus Bank and other agency, other Nigerian agency or groups that are out to facilitate the trade or the business of export in Nigeria. Going to the topic here today, which is the role of Nigerian Customs Service in supporting non-oil export in Nigeria, the past, the present, and the future. I must admit that the last speaker actually touched some of those areas that we've been working together to see that we facilitate trade in Nigeria. Well, a vital component of economic growth is the ability of a nation to improve its GDP, which is gross domestic product, through foreign earnings. Export trade contributes significantly to the GDP by adding to the total value of goods and services produced within a country. Export growth, along with other factors, drive economic growth by stimulating production, investment, consumption, and job creation. Over the years, oil has been the mainstay of Nigerian export sector and a major source of revenue. In the past, Nigeria's economy heavily relied on oil export, and the focus of the Nigerian Customs Service mirrored this dependency. The Nigerian Customs Service primarily served as a revenue collector and gatekeeper for import and export, enforcing policies that ensured compliance with trade regulations. I know the general belief of the general public has been that Nigerian Customs Service is about revenue generation, but that is not actually the full description of what we are. Like my own command now, which I'm the area controller there, our job in that command is to facilitate trade. Everybody knows here that export goods, they don't pay customs duty. Only on a very minute part, maybe like, for example, trying to export what had been initially imported into the country. But about 99.9% of what we do, of the goods we facilitate in our command, they don't pay any duty to the government. So we are just there to facilitate the business of export, not to collect any revenue for government like that. However, this limited engagement with all non-oil export meant that there was little focus on facilitating trade in non-oil products. However, due to global fall in oil prices, it has become expedient for the federal government of Nigeria to diversify into non-oil export sector in a bid to sustain the economy. The need for the growth of non-oil export is of critical importance to the Nigerian economy, as it plays a pivotal role in national prosperity, economic diversification, job creation, and industrial development. The landscape for non-oil export has witnessed a positive shift as Nigerians now engage in non-oil export ranging from agro-food, commodities such as hibiscus flower, cocoa, cashew, sesame seed, dry ginger, to solid minerals such as lithium, manganese, iron, lead, zinc, etc. To buttress this point, I will announce, maybe to those that have not heard, that the last quarter, that is July, August, September, we were able to facilitate close to $1 billion export goods in our command. They also include locally manufactured goods, items such as beverages, textiles, cement, chemicals, processed foods, float glass, among others. These commodities, with the right support from both public and private sector, have the potential to improve Nigerians' balance of trade when exported. The federal government of Nigeria has over the years promoted non-oil export trade through initiatives such as the Export Expansion Grant and the Ease of Doing Business. Today, the role of the Nigerian Customs Service has expanded beyond revenue collection to actively facilitating the growth of non-oil exports. Maybe in this case, for the general public to know that the Nigerian Customs Service also key into facilitation of trade of export. A command, that is where I head, is solely responsible for processing export goods in the Southwest. Just to facilitate it, so that my command is like a one-stop shop for export clearing, I mean export processing. It is gone are the days where maybe we have a Apapa command processing export, Chinkan command processing export, PTML processing export. No. In my command, everything starts and stops there. When an exporter is done with documentation, everything with the Lillipond command, the containers are port banned, where we have our officers that will just checking. No need of any other examination or anything again. Because we have been hearing from the social media where they say it takes maybe 3 months for containers to enter the port in Nigeria compared to other countries or maybe other West African countries where it takes maybe just 24 hours. I will get there. I will talk on that one too very soon. These reforms, we have reformed, gave birth to the establishment of Lily Pond Export Command as an area command that is solely dedicated to export trade facilitation by the Nigerian Customs Service in November 2022. The Nigerian Customs Service played a crucial role in facilitating trade by ensuring compliance with the regulations, streamlining custom procedures, and combating smuggling. The command in the last 9 months has facilitated and processed the export of non-oil sectors such as manufacturing, agricultural produce, solid minerals, plants, and machineries valued at over $1.3 billion. This feat is as a result of collaboration of custom with the NPA over the inclusion of export processing terminals and domestic export warehouses to the export logistic chain value. The last speaker actually mentioned domestic export warehouses, and though he didn't mention export processing terminals, for the general public to understand what the domestic export warehouses, what it really meant in practice, it means that there are some warehouses outside the port where exporters have their goods destined to the port. They come to the custom office and invite us for examination. And when we go for such examinations, we go with all relevant government agencies, whether the Standard Organization of Nigeria, whether NAFDAC, whether Produce Board, whether Quarantine Service, NDLEA, so that we do a one-stop shop at those DEW or export processing terminals. So that by the time we are done, the custom will now put the seal. When that seal is put, no other government agency or anybody whatsoever will have any cause to open that container again. That container will be ready to enter the port, subject to when the NPA calls them to come. I will talk about the entry to the port by the NPA as I go on. Yeah, the privately run export processing terminals and domestic airport warehouses were approved and created to decongest the Lagos port corridor and enhance logistics. This ensured that all export bound containers are processed, stored, and transported into the port from these designated EPTs and DEWs. Furthermore, in July 2024, the management of the Customs Service under the dynamic and even innovative leadership of the CG, Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, MFR, consolidated all export processing operations at the Lagos Port Command in the Lily Pond Export Command, with a view to addressing the challenge of bureaucracy and duplicity of export functions within the export clearance chain. Whereas the Lily Pond Export Command has facilitated over 3,000 export boxes, valued at over $900 million since the commencement of the export consolidation. Yeah, where we are going. The Nigerian Customs Service continues to play a critical role in boosting exports by stakeholders through trade facilitation incentives, and harmonization of export procedures and regulations, which can reduce the cost and time involved in exporting goods, thereby creating a more business-friendly environment. With a growing emphasis on economic diversification, the Nigerian Customs Service has introduced several reforms and initiatives to streamline export procedures and enhance Nigeria's global trade competitiveness. Reforms on the backbone of collaboration, consolidation, and innovation, such as the time release study, authorized economic operator program, trade modernization project, interagency synergy, among others, hold the capacity to enhance export of goods for compliant traders. The time release study is a World Customs Organization assisted program that was launched in Lagos on 8th of February this year. The focus of the tool is to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of clearance processes at the ports and borders. It involves measuring the total time taken for the release of goods from its arrival at the port till its final release, including all necessary procedures and documentation. This survey was conducted at the Tinkan Island port, and the findings of the survey are being used to streamline clearance procedures and reduce bottlenecks. At the Lily Pond Export Command, exporters and their agents are assured that custom export clearance can be obtained within 24 hours upon the declaration of their SGD Currently, all export clearance procedures are conducted at all the Lagos port of exit by officers and men of the Lily Pond Export Command, eliminating re-examination of containers by another custom authority at relevant ports of exit. It should be noted that though we have our administrative office at Ijora, around Apapa there, but we have our officers spread up to Lekki Port. We have our officers in Lekki Port. We have our officers in Apapa, Tinkan, PTML, because it is the exporter that will know which ship and which port the ship that will carry his goods is coming from, or where they are going to load the containers. So that when the goods get to, let's say for example, Lekki Port now, there are custom officers there, but they are not to have anything to do with export boxes. Because we have Lily Pond export officers there who are always in touch with what happens in the office. Just to, okay, not to re-examine again, but just to, okay, that yes, these are goods coming from Lily Pond, so there should be no delay. As it is in Lekki Port, so it is in Apapa Port, Tinkan, and PTML. Other aspects of export clearance, such as logistics, are being improved daily with sustained collaboration with the MPA and stakeholders, such as truckers union, licensed agents, shipping companies, terminal operators, and freight forwarders. Let me say here that those that are familiar with the port corridor will observe that for the past 3 years until this year, to enter the port has been so difficult. Export containers can stay for like a month around the port corridor there before they can enter the port. But I'm happy to say today that with the collaboration we have with the MPA, Shippers Council, and other stakeholders, that the truckers, the MPA has been able to put in place a policy that they call Eto Call-Up. The Eto Call-Up is domicile in EPTs, because when containers, when they get to the EPTs, they submit their document, maybe the time they are expecting their ship to come. So the EPT will now online communicate with the MPA, and the MPA will send Eto Call-Up to them, subject to other maybe requirements. So when the Eto Call-Up comes, that means the containers, the truck, can start moving towards the port. That has sanitized that road in such a way that other road users, other people that have nothing to do with the port will be able to move freely, unlike before, that you may need to park your car like 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers away and find your way to get to your offices around the port. If you go to the port now, the road is so free and sanitized, and it's now a better business environment, unlike about 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I would say that where we have our office at Ijora, because we always have constant engagement with stakeholders, like a Diamond Star, who happens to be one of the EPTs. The update on the movement of container is that when container gets there, within 12 hours, everything is processed, and the truck should be ready to start going to the port. Unlike before that, they stay like 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, even 2 months. And the drivers and the truck people, they became so riotous sometimes because they are fed up. But kudos to the MPA and the Shippers Council with the other stakeholders that what really happened at those periods was that we have a lot of export boxes inside the port, especially at Apapa Port, APMT terminal. And if they don't move those export boxes away to their various destinations, there will be no space for further admitting export containers into the port. But now, all those boxes, maybe numbering up to whether 7 or 8,000 early this year, have been moved. So export boxes, they go into the port within 12, highest 24 hours now, unlike the one they stay 2 months or more than that. So I'm happy to announce that. And those that stay or walk around that area can testify to what I'm talking about. The Nigerian Customs Service intensify its effort to enhance ease of doing business for compliant traders, commence the implementation of authorized economic operator program on the 2nd of September 2024. What that one really means when they say authorized economic operators, these are people that are mostly compliant in their declarations. And these are people that move a lot of goods in volume and maybe quantity of value. So Nigeria Customs Service, we have our risk management engine that identify those people, and we give them priority in treating their jobs, so that this will be like an encouragement to everybody to be compliant in whatever they are doing. As we do it in import, in export corridor too, we identify them and we give them that type of treatment. This program, which benefits the first set of approved compliant importers, exporters, small and medium scale enterprises, customs, licensed brokers, and logistic operators, introduce new standards in line with global best practices with the aim of enhancing trade facilitation within the supply chain. It is important to note that this program is focused on promoting consistently compliant traders. Subsequently, the Nigeria Customs Service will in due time allow the full implementation of the AEO program. Certified traders who consistently comply with regulations are subject to fewer physical inspections and simplified custom procedures. Just for example, if we have compliant traders, maybe we have like 20 or 40 containers, and we over time know you to be compliant traders, we may just do random examination on such containers and save him time and money. Certified traders who containers are subject to fewer, allowing for faster export. Lely Pond Export Command in its operation has already identified notable exporters based on documentary compliance and volume of trade who currently enjoy the privileges associated with the AEO program. It is important to note that the AEO status granted to any stakeholder covers both import and export custom clearance procedure. Sustained efforts as transforming the digital framework of Nigerian Customs Service operation using modern technology have been ongoing. The Nigerian Customs Service implemented through a public-private partnership a concession agreement signed on May 30th, 2022 between the federal government, Trade Modernization Project Limited, and other partners. The goal is geared towards enhancing Nigerian Customs Service ICT systems and infrastructure to expedite trade. By fully digitalizing and automating custom processes, the Nigerian Customs Service is constantly reducing the time, cost, and complexity associated with exporting. By the time we do that, definitely it will make Nigerian goods competitive in the international market. Currently, the management of the service has begun the pilot and sensitization phase of the deployment of the Unified Custom Management System to replace the current NICIS 2 at the PTML command. Additionally, this new system, when launched, unlike before, we have e-ports, logistic monitoring, electronic cargo tracking, and transparent export processes. The upgrade of this ICT infrastructure and other aspects of the trade modernization project will continue to enhance efficient export service delivery and provide more robust data sourcing and credibility that all traders can access for the purpose of strategic and operational planning. The Lily Pond Export Command continues to address the age-long challenge of port congestion, congestions and delay associated with export containers through deliberate collaboration with relevant agencies and stakeholders. For example, when the export processing was collapsed into the Lily Pond Command, we immediately called for the meeting with the stakeholders, all stakeholders, including the truckers, shipping companies, MPA, all the relevant government agencies, for them to know what we are saddled with, because we have more responsibility now here, you will know that trade has been treated faster than it used to be now at a Lily Point. Terminal operators at the wharf, burdened by the menace of congestion at their facility, allow for the receipt of more cargo, are being assisted through sure that more vessels are available to load those containers for export. I think I dwell on that. Yeah. Likewise, containers that are returned for different reasons are adequately retrieved by the exporters without any delay from the Lillipond Export Command. I will mention here about there's one topic the speaker from the Export Promotion Council mentioned about standard of goods. We have cases in our command where some goods were returned from the UK, maybe because of a maybe NAFDAC issue. I had cause to call the NAFDAC representative to explain what happened to me in my office. The representative came. The representative now told me that those goods, though they are good for Nigeria consumption, but they will fail in United Kingdom because the standard there is different from our own. It doesn't mean our own is substandard. It says some consumables are produced according to the climate of the area where it's going to be consumed. I never knew that until that explanation came. So because of that, we always get all these relevant government agencies to be there to certify the standard of anything that is meant to be exported, so that we don't have a situation whereby Nigerian goods will be returned from the country of they are exported into. In conclusion, the Nigerian Customs Service has been and will continue to be a key player in Nigeria's non-oil export journey. From its past regulatory role to its present-day focus on trade facilitation and stakeholder engagement, the Nigerian Customs Service has proven its capacity to drive growth in the non-oil export sector. Looking ahead, the future promises even greater opportunities at the Customs Service as the Customs Service embraces new innovative technologies, strengthens interagency collaboration, and advocates for policies that will position Nigeria as a leader in non-oil exports. By continuing to modernize and adapt, the Nigerian Customs Service through the Lillipond Export Command aims to unlock the vast potential of Nigeria's non-oil sector, contributing significantly to national development and global competitiveness. There is one point I need to add here, maybe for some of our stakeholders or some of the bank customers. The business of export is not about being able to have the type of fund that will load a full container. From my experience on the job, we now have people we can have like 4 or 5 people team up together to put their goods in just one container. We can even have up to 6. They call it groupage. It may be just one pallet you have. Presently, it's being done at the CFA's terminal at the Jora there. So some might go there, or some might come to our office for us to advise them. You don't need to be thinking that, export, you need to have money that will be able to fill up a container. They say, no. Some start with maybe small pallet. About 5 or 6 people can join together to have a container, provided the goods are going to similar destination. So that is the information I said I should add to my write-up. Thank you very much for inviting the Customs Service here. We hope to still be part of whatever summit you'll be having on export, any day, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. A round of applause. A round of applause for him, please. Thank you so very much, sir. Comptroller Jibola Odusonya, thank you. That's quite insightful. One of the things and the core takeaway that I would also want all of us to take away is the possibility to jointly export. The thought around the fact that it has to be one container before it is done is over. So we can actually come together as a group, as a unit, as a cooperative society, and again, be rest assured the structure around the funding can also be provided in this direction. What I can attest to again is that I remember at a point going to Apapa was just a difficult thing. So one of the major risk that we mentioned in our papers back then is that port congestion. It's so easy. You just put it, it has to be like number one. But thankfully, I can also attest to the fact that if you go to the port now, you probably will just have it yours faithfully. So a round of applause for them. They're doing quite well. And again, the reassurance that we can always have the NCS back at any time. I know they are part of Providus in terms of support, and I know we will always have them around. Please help me clap for him one more time. So on to the next, which is the Nigeria Shippers Council. It's always an interesting discussion anytime I have her around. I was about reading her profile prior to the comptroller coming in. Thankfully, I've learned something. There is difference between 6 and half a dozen. Controller and comptroller, they are two different things. I hope you have learned it as well. A round of applause for Comptroller Ajibola Odusoya. Thank you. So at this point, I will invite Ms. Adaura Nwono. But prior to her coming on the stage, I will read a bit of her profile. She's the Deputy Director of Trade Services at Nigerian Shippers Council with over 15 years of experience in international, bilateral, multilateral trade, as well as trade facilitation measures. She has been instrumental in promoting the ease of doing business for cross-border traders, ensuring they can operate seamlessly. Her firm believes that facilitating trade encourages more economic activities, underpins her commitment to driving economic prosperity through trade reforms. In addition to her role at the Shippers Council, Ms. Nwono represents the organization at the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PBEC. Her alignment with PBEC's mission reflects her strong advocacy for supporting exporters and importers, as she sees their success as vital to ensuring Nigeria's economic stability and sustainability. Please join me in clapping for Ms. Nwono as she speaks to us from Nigerian Shippers Council today. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. So it's nice to be here. First of all, I would like to recognize the presence of our sister agencies. Some of them are here. The Nigerian Customs Service, our big brother. Of course, the SA to the President on export, who spoke earlier. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Neroli, who plays a very vital role in certifying our exports. Please permit me, if I have omitted anyone, to align myself with already well-established protocols. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting us to this event. It's always a pleasure and gives an opportunity to share a bit of what we do. It gives us that platform to also further engage with exporters, importers, and other stakeholders. So thank you. And we're also glad that the banks are taking an interest. It goes to show the importance of export in building that resilient economy, because now we all realize that we need to look inwards and dig deeper and harness those potentials. Zenith Bank did something similar a short while ago. We were there, and now Providus. And when this invitation came, we just couldn't turn it down, because that is what we do, to encourage cross-border traders. Thank you. To encourage cross-border traders, for them to trade more effectively and seamlessly too. Of course, the question is always, I said earlier, you always hear, Nigeria is blessed with abundant resources. I think that has been like an anthem for years. It's blessed with arable land. is blessed with an enviable coastline, with all these blessings. So what remains the problem? What then is the problem? If Nigeria is so blessed, and over the years we keep hearing Nigeria is blessed with these resources, is it that we're not tapping into those resources? Are there bottlenecks that are not enabling us to tap into these resources? What are the issues? Because we can't keep singing that same song. Well, Nigerian Shippers Council, as an economic agency, I mean, we believe in removing those bottlenecks. But of course, we don't remove them on our own. It also has to do with engagement sometimes, collaborating with sister agencies. Some of the measures, if I like to, speak to the topic, our role in supporting non-oil export. We have tried, looking at the fact that we all know that shipping is a global business. Somebody asked me the other day, so why are there high freight rates? Why are shippers, slammed with high freight rates? What will we do about it? And I said, shipping is dynamic. It's a global business, and the freight rates are influenced by certain factors which may not be within your control. But what do you do as a country? You look inwards and try to dismantle those issues. Infrastructure is one. Because if it's difficult to ship out and to ship in, if your inbound logistics is tight and burdensome, naturally, the shipping companies would be discouraged, and they will not want to run at a loss. So they also have a way of playing back that, that extra cost on your shippers. So sensible economies, what you do, the ones that are not within your control, then you try to look inward, clear those bottlenecks deliberately. We have to be intentional. We have talked about AFCFTA, but then for us to tap into AFCFTA, there has to be deliberateness. We have to be in the steps we take. Because AFCFTA, like I always say, make no mistake about it, it's all about export competitiveness. The ability to export competitively and compete with others in the region. That's what it is. So if your environment is so stifled, if it's so difficult to export, if there is no power and he has to run high cost to get power to manufacture, what it then means is that that exporter cannot compete in the wider market. In this case now, the regional market or the continental market, as you will. So there's no rocket science about it. Let's look inwards and try to dismantle those bottlenecks. An exporter should not see it as a difficult exercise. Sometimes you hear, it's so difficult to export, so many issues. They cite so many issues, from infrastructure, logistics, payments, documentation, access to port, so many issues. Why then should it be? If in our neighboring countries, a place like Ghana, it takes you 3 days to export. 2 days, in fact, somebody corrected me the last time. He said, no, it's even less now. They have actually reduced it. It's about 2 days you can export. Documentation, you just need about 4 documents, some cases 3 documents to export. It's not so here. We know how many documents it takes to export here. So if the exporter has to run around, trying to get this documentation that lie with different agencies and all that, how then can he compete? So those are obvious issues. We are also dealing with it. We are trying to step into, like I said, it's not something we do alone. We collaborate, NEPC, the customs, the Ports Authority. We keep collaborating because we need to dismantle them. There are no two ways about it. Nobody is going to come and do it. NEPC told us that, of course, the Europeans who reject our cargo, sometimes, of course, it's for such imperial reasons. So what it then goes to show is that we have to take certain steps here. So one of which we have taken in Nigeria Shippers Council will be establishment of even the border information centers. We have what we call the BICs. They are different locations. We have about 4 now. One is at the Seme border, which is a highly trafficked border. One is at Umfong, our border with Cameroon. The other one is at Jibia and Ilela in Sokoto. Jibia is in Katsina, for those of you who don't know. We are still, in the process of setting up more. But the essence of a border information center is also to support your traders who use the land border. Because sometimes we take our eyes off the land border. We focus on the seaport. But if AFCFTA has to work, a lot of cargo will be moving down that corridor. So, these BICs are there to support traders, resolve complaints, resolve issues right on the spot. That is the essence. That the officer there should be able to resolve issues with the complement of other border officials, customs, immigration, port health, quarantine, they're all there. So as the problems arise, he should be able to solve it so that the trade can move. Because when you facilitate trade, more trade will happen. And that's economic sustainability and growth for all of us. It's simple. If you stifle it, we'll keep complaining. No effects, no revenue earnings. It's not going to fall from the sky. So that is one arrangement we have put in place to support those who use the land border. We're still going to set up more. We're looking at setting at Idiroko, and we're speaking to the customs to support of customs. They actually, help us to even allocate a space around the border. Luckily, the one in Info, ECOWAS actually assigned us an office inside the John border post. For those of you who have been to that border, it's a new border post built by ECOWAS, and they gave us a place there. That way we have one-on-one, it's easy for the traders to access us. Another initiative we have taken, and is already in motion, is the establishment of inland dry port. We have the IDPs, we call them IDPs. Formerly we call them ICDs, but now IDPs. The IDPs, some of you may know, are like a mini port. The only difference is that there is no water. It's not coastal by nature. But every activity performed in the seaport is also performed in a dry port. So what it means is that it's supposed to bring shipping services closer to those in the hinterland. So the shipper in Daura, the shipper in Kanu, the shipper in Funtua, he does not need to come to Apapa. What it means is that he can, put his consignment together, take it to that IDP, it's put on the rail, and it comes to Apapa. Now, some of you will say, oh, but rail, we know. And then we're also working with Nigerian Railway Corporation to have that commitment and to see the need. Because for the IDPs to be fully you should be able to book your space from the comfort of your home or wherever. No cost for 20-footer, 40-footer. So that has to happen. That's why we have to take deliberate steps. So the NRC has to have dedicated schedules so that the IDPs can be fully, maximized. There are some of one in Dala, some of you might know that we have one in Dala. Dala is in Kanu, by the way. We have in Funtua, in Katsina, Ibadan, which was still at an advanced stage. We have in Haipang, in Jos. We have a site in Abia, Isialangwa, but it's still at a growing stage. So all these are steps, because the IDP, we see it as a game changer, because that is one thing that will decongest our ports, also make it easier for people to export. So you can imagine if somebody in Jos doesn't need to come to Lagos, he doesn't need to go to Port Harcourt port or wherever to export. He can consign those things, put in a container, take it to that IDP by him, and then the container moves. The same as the inbound one. So when the shipment is also coming, for example, from Shanghai, it will also come like that. It will be consigned to Funtua dry port or Dala dry port. So at that dry port, all the agencies, like I said earlier, they are there. So every activity in terms of inspection, documentation, it also will take place at that IDP. We have one in Kaduna, Kaduna was even launched like a couple of years ago under the previous administration. It was launched, the ICNL in Kaduna. So we believe that the IDP is crucial to supporting exporters because logistics remains a fundamental factor in what limits our exporters. So if we can take that shipping to your doorstep, that's what it simply means. We believe we have cut down a huge number of costs for you. And apart from that, it provides employment. It provides employment for even the people around there. That's what is going to happen. So we're still working on this. Like Dala is already on, so some of you might have used Dala dry port. Dala is fully operational now. That of Kaduna was launched almost like 4 or 5 years ago. It's also operational. We are just hoping that the complementary operations from the NRC, for example, would happen soon so that IPs will be fully optimized. So we also have the complaints handling mechanism. We have a dispute resolution platform for shippers. You'll all agree with me that oftentimes disputes arise. Shipping is a global business. Different parties in different climes, different jurisdictions, different regulations, different rules. So quite a number of times, disputes will always arise. And what then happens? It delays. Costs associated with those delays begin to kick in. And we don't want that. So we have a very robust complaints handling mechanism. We do have it's very vibrant. In the past 3 years, we've saved the country over 6 billion naira. We have saved the country over 6 billion. These are charges that innocent exporters or maybe ignorant sometimes will probably have paid, not knowing their rights sometimes. So we talk to the shipping companies, we negotiate. Once we are aware of these complaints, we step into the matter. We're currently looking at one of a shipment from Kano, peanuts that went all the way to Algiers. But it so happens there's a dispute between Port of Algiers and Morocco. And they ask you, make sure that shipment doesn't go through Morocco. But then the shipping line took it through Morocco and Algiers rejected the shipment. That is not the fault of the exporter. And the shipment had to be brought back. As I speak, we're still talking with the customs, APAPA command, to ensure that the cargo is released back to the owner so that perhaps they can see if they can sell it off in the local market and recoup something, because it's already a big loss for them. One, they have lost the contract with the buyer in Algiers, and then, of course, like I said, the product, God knows the state of the product now, because the last time we checked, we inspected that container, and it was still in good order. I mean, it was still in good condition. But the process of getting, of course, the customs to, to release, that's where we are, and we hope it will happen soon. Otherwise, it will be a total loss. And then tomorrow, the exporter probably will not be able to export. Probably he even borrowed the money. So those are real practical issues that we deal with on a daily basis. We have the VTAs, what we call the vehicle transit areas. For some of you who, of course, have done long-distance travels in Europe and other developed climes, they call it rest areas, rest stops. It's even mandatory that you must, after driving a certain period, you must stop and take a rest. So that is what we have, the VTAs. We call them vehicle transit areas. So that trucks, the same trucks that carry your goods, would have a decent place to rest. The truck could be coming from Maradi or where, because, they come from different areas. And it's a long distance, you'll agree with me. So they must have a decent place where they can rest. Now, the VTA now is not just for them to rest. You can rest, you refuel, you fix your car, the repairs for you to change spares, and then you can also sleep over. It's like a motel, sleeping areas, motels are also there. So we believe that is one way we can also support shipment. Because the same truck who has driven for how many days in very harsh conditions, sometimes you all witness to what happens to that your cargo by the time it gets to the port. But if he's in a better state of mind, if he knows that after 5 hours, he can pull over in a decent place and rest, refuel, I believe our cargo will also get to their destination in a better order, because the person driving it will also be in a better state of mind. So apart from this, we have also looked at the fact that collaboration is key. You know, any PC you harped on collaboration, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when you collaborate. Collaboration works the magic of exponential growth. That's what it is. Together we can do more. So sometimes when it looks like that collaboration is not happening, and that multiplicity of agencies handling the same thing, running around, citing their relevant laws that they're enabled to do this, because when you challenge them, they'll tell you that they're enabled by law. So I think even the legislator has to pay attention to this. Because when they come and you know, to review their laws, their acts, and you quickly give in and enable them, it's a recipe for what we see now. That's what it is. It's a recipe for the disaster the chaos we see now. Because when you challenge those agencies, they tell you, but we're enabled by law. And they bring out a piece of decree. It's enabled by law, truly. Who okayed it? Legislature. So there must be a holistic approach to this. We must think ourselves first. So it's not any agency that brings something, okay, I want to be in the port, I need to inspect that, I must be part of the inspection, and you okay it. Why must you be part of the inspection process? It mustn't be. If we're looking at automation, why must you be there? You mustn't be there physically. So we need to actually, like I said, we have to be honest with ourselves. We must be. We have also taken it up to make sure that the terminal operators and shipping companies, that they automate the operations, which they have done. We embarked on this about 4 years ago or 3 years ago, because we said you must automate. You must automate. And that was what helped us during the COVID era. The ports never slept. The ports were moving. People were clearing their goods. We made sure. We were even taking the freight forwarders and clearing to the port. We had to provide vehicles, because if you all remember, during the COVID, everybody went to sleep. Everybody ran into their homes. But the ports had to open. The ports had to work, because even the medical supplies you were getting, they were coming from the port. So Shippers Council ensured and provided the logistics to move freight forwarders, cargo owners from different areas to make sure that they were able to access the port. We had to speak to one of the banks to ensure that they could still pay. They could pay their duties online. And that worked tremendously. So nobody ever complained that they couldn't get their medicals or they couldn't get this, because the ports were open for business. So automation remains a crucial driver. And then we have pushed this, and I can tell you now, as at this moment, we're about 95% or 97% completion of that process. Almost every terminal operator, shipping, also reduce the waiting time. Thank you. That something brings me, to the EPT. You mentioned the EPT and the due, the customs. We're happy about it. We're glad for it. There must be some, streamlining of exports to the ports. But the concern is this: that interface, is it really happening? Because we get complaints from shippers, we get complaints from exporters, that interface is not, a container that leaves the domestic export warehouse must still go through all these other checks and still end up waiting for the ETO. And that's another process, waiting for the ETO. And the question is, why does that have to happen? Some exporters have big warehouses. They have big warehouses already where all that examination consolidation takes place. So why compel him to still leave and go back to the other one just for the purpose of obtaining an ETO? By the way, ETO is automated, so you can get it from anywhere. That's the beauty of automation. You should be able to get it from anywhere. So why still compel that driver to drive into that, yard, marshalling yard, as I'll call it, to obtain the ETO? That is another process that is killing it. I mean, that is that procedure. And we get complaints because we feel their pain points because they come to us. So I can tell you, we need to look at that process again. Because otherwise, the good intention, because I was part of that idea, to be honest with you, during the past administration, the former vice president, that was his idea. Okay, why don't you have this EPTs and dues? But then the idea is that there should be interface. It shouldn't be a clog in the wheel. It shouldn't now amount to duplicity and roadblocks, because that's what is happening. That's still subjected to you have to leave your the due and then go to the terminal, the marshalling yard, where you have to obtain the ETO. But like I said, ETO can be obtained electronically. So what it means is that if he has a warehouse where all the checks has been done in his warehouse, he should be able to obtain that ETO from there and proceed to the port. Because sometimes this delay, let me tell you what it does. You may not know, because when there's a delay, there's, you see the spiral effect. It affects the next stage. They now stand the risk of losing their shipping slot on the vessel. You have booked for that vessel, but you can't access it, the vessel. You can't access the port. The ship comes, he's not going to wait for you. The ship will come, and she will leave. What then happens is that the shipping company slams you with what they call a renomination fee, because you have to now, book again. They were doing this repeatedly. The complaints came to us. We've engaged the shipping companies and asked them, charge a one-time fee. So as at 2 weeks ago, I know they were charging a one-time fee of 38,000. If that has changed, we wouldn't know. But we keep monitoring, because what we need is constant monitoring of all economic operators to ensure that they play by the rules. If you take your eyes off, they also try to be smart. So now they charge just a one-time fee of 38,000 naira. Before it was, multiple. So if you miss it twice, you pay. If you miss it the third time, that's your business. That's not competitive. That's not going to take us anywhere. So like I said, we keep monitoring, because those are things that build into even that, like I said, the freight. Because when he comes and you're not ready, that's what amount, because there's no backhaul cargo. He's not taking any backhaul cargo. He's only coming to import. Therefore, the freight will be high because it's not balanced. If you're shipping to Sierra Leone now, a 40-foot container to Sierra Leone, you'll probably be paying $2,150. Same to Brazzaville, 4,000. 4,000 to Brazzaville. But to a place like Port of Ambali in Turkey, you're paying about $1,450. So you can check it, $4,000 in Africa. So there's something wrong. And that's why we need to, like I said, look inward, deal with inbound logistics, free our corridors so that they can trade easily. When you trade easily, it becomes cheaper. So that's why people say ease of doing business. Yes, I'm a champion of ease of doing business, because I'm the reform champion of the Nigerian Shippers Council at PEBEC. But then, ease and cost must go together. We cannot take our eyes off the cost of doing business as well. We're glad that the customs launched the time release studies. I must use the opportunity to applaud the current leadership at the Customs Service. I must applaud him, Controller Adeniyi. He's doing a fantastic job. He's doing a fantastic job, because some of these trade instruments were there all along, since Nigeria signed the WTO TFA agreement. Way back, I think 2016 or so, we ratified as well. But the New Deal did not move in a lot of instruments, things we needed to do. It didn't. And it had to be customs. It wasn't like another agency could do it. So it wasn't looking good for us in the Committee of Nations, at least amongst your trading partners. It didn't look good. But the current leadership is doing something. We were there in February when you launched the time release studies. We were there. We're waiting for that report. We were interested to see what you share with that report, because you promised that you make it available. So we'll see. Because those are the things we need to do to move from where we are to where we want to be. You have done that. You have done the AEO, the trusted trader. Beautiful. The big companies are excited about the AEO. We know. So please continue what you're doing. But I must also say, I always say this, make it easy for compliant traders and make it difficult for illegitimate traders. Don't paint all of them with the same brush, which sometimes looks like what you do. This one is not complying, so you put a big wedge, and that wedge affects everybody, even the compliant ones. So sometimes it then makes it easier and less attractive to even be compliant, because you see that the crooked ones are getting their way and moving faster, but you are compliant, your goods are stuck. So everybody is not a criminal. Everybody is not a crook. We have genuine traders. We have those who do business genuinely, legitimate ones. So let's make it easier and make it more difficult for the illegitimate ones. Perhaps that will bring the illegitimate ones into the other lane. But as long as they have their way all the time, and they even have it easier and faster than the legitimate ones, then you agree with me that it doesn't make any sense. So I always say that customs, it still behoves on you. You know what to do. Make it easy for people to trade. Make it easy for genuine traders. Genuine traders, because when we're talking about genuine traders and legitimate ones, we have no beef with the illegitimate traders. That we can, get to where we want to be. Thank you. I think I talked about collaboration. I keep talking about collaboration because collaboration is very key. We have also tried to reduce the tariff. What we did, we engaged the shipping lines. They had about 14 nomenclature, about 14, under different headings. Container cleaning fee. You keep wondering, must a container be cleaned? Container may not be dirty when you return it. So why are you charging me for cleaning the container? But those were just all those rent-seeking tactics, that they deploy just to milk your people. So if you're not watching, it will keep happening. So we had to step in. So from that 14, we dropped it down to 6. We did drop it down to 6. So now, a shipping line is not expected to introduce any tariff heading without consulting the port economic regulator, which is the Nigerian Shippers Council. Following the concession of the port in 2006, there was no regulator. There was no regulator. So that was part of the chaos people witnessed for some years. There was no regulator. So the shipping lines, the players got used to doing what they liked. Like somebody would say, it's like a football match without a referee. People could score with their hands, right? And it's a goal. But suddenly you introduce a referee. Of course, they don't like it because it's like you're coming to spoil what we're doing. So that was what. So we faced those, resistance. It was a pushback, but we pushed on. Because it all comes back to us. It all comes back to what you buy in the supermarket. That's why things are expensive. Because a lot of arbitrariness. The cost of what you buy, not necessarily the cost of the item, but all those costs associated with it. Legitimate and not legitimate. That's what you see. So we have dropped that down. Like I said, sustainability is the word. Can they do that again? No, we don't expect them to, because now there are sanctions. There are sanctions. We've had to shut some of them down. But then we're also a bit mindful in wielding that big stick. Because when you shut him down for 24 hours, the effect down the chain is huge. Your shippers and all of them also suffer it. And most times, they're very smart. They have a way of putting it back on the shipper. They never want to lose. So whilst we won, at some point, we also have to wield that big stick, even if it's for 24 hours, which is a huge loss for them if we do that. But we don't want to do that. It shouldn't be we versus you. Like I said, it all comes back to hunters at the end of the day. So, like I said, we keep engagement is the word, and I'm also looking forward to a situation where probably when we come next year, the 5th edition, a lot of gains will have been made, Mr. Yimbu. We can tick the boxes and say, as at last year, this was what it was. But now this is what it is. We also want the exporters to validate what we do. It shouldn't just be about us coming to, say all the fancy, big things about what we're doing. It also has to add value to the system and to shipper. I always say it, if those beautiful infrastructure, those beautiful systems everybody has, because every agency is doing something. If you ask Son, we're doing this, NAFDAC, we're doing this. But why is the exporter still complaining if we're all doing this? That means there's a problem. The duplicity is also a problem. The multiplicity is a problem. The rent-seeking behavior, it's a problem. Why they focus on revenue? It ought not to be. Because when you facilitate trade, more trade will happen. So next year, I'll want us to tick those boxes. Please let the stakeholders, let the exporters validate what we do. It's very important because oftentimes, it's nice to come and say all the beautiful things we do. Not that they're not true, they are correct. But sometimes, it might just be add value to what you do if you consult with the user. If the user is also feeling the impact of what you have put in place. If the user is not feeling it, then it's just an idle infrastructure sitting somewhere. And if the infrastructure we are all putting in our different environments, if it's not adding value, if it's not making trade easier, cheaper, and quicker, then it remains a waste of taxpayers' money and a waste of resources. Thank you.
I think we can appreciate her more than this. What is quite important to me is the fact that it is not a monologue, it's actually a dialogue. It's a discourse. And I love the fact that she mentioned the need for us to validate, which is the exporters needs to validate. Why? Because an eye does not see itself. It's easy for me to tell you about how good I am, but am I really good? That is the most important thing for us to look at. And again, it is important for us to, again, do a deep dive in terms of profiling solution and letting this solution come to play. And that takes deliberate action from all stakeholders. But I pray that, Nigeria will have a wonderful export position that will put all the economic indices in the positive side. As fast as we know it, if that happens, Nigeria will become a better place for all of us. Before the next speaker, I would just like to have picture session for those who have spoken. And again, I would like the president of Gemstone Miners and Marketers to join them. So those who have spoken so far can just come to the podium while we have the picture session. The CRO should join them as well. Then we'll take the next speaker. What we plan to do is to compress the two panel sessions into one. If you have questions, and I'm sure you have questions, you can just put all those questions down, and then we'll take a question session where those speakers will answer. But the panel session is compressed to one, and then we'll be able to deliberate. And again, it will be a validation session whereby we can hear directly from the exporters, from the players in that industry. And again, the next speaker will speak to that. But I want us to come to the podium. I'd like to invite the Comptroller Ajibola Odusonya, Mr. Daura Nwonu. I'd like to also invite Mr. Arnold Jackson. And then I would also like to invite the special advisor to the President on Export to just come up stage, and the CRO to have a picture session just to get that done. In the order of event as they come up, I would like to mention that we would like to compress, because I know that this is Friday and some faithful might want to do prayers. So we'll probably compress it, and at the end of it all, we'll have our lunch, and then we can do our networking session. But on the interim, let's just have the picture session. Thank you. Round of applause for the speakers. Thank you so very much. At this juncture, I will call on the president, national president of the Gemstone Miners and Marketers Association of Nigeria, GMAN, to speak on the prospects and challenges of mining and metal business in Nigeria, as well as the opportunities in the gemstone space. While you were coming in, I'm sure you saw a bit of Nigerian origin gemstones displayed outside. You can take time to look at them. I'm sure a lot of us will travel abroad and buy the emeralds, you buy the sapphires.